So Jay, you can kick off the discussion and then we'll call in questions from everyone.
Yes, sure. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, sorry, I couldn't join earlier as I was tied up with some work and I missed the earlier part. But overall, the setup for Nifty, Nasdaq, and all, I think Sir must have narrated, and it looks weak. And moreover, I think not many people.
I guess is not. I mean, his network is bad. So the fact finder has joined. You can continue your conversation.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, may I speak?
Yes, sure. Please ask it. Go on.
Sir, my only observation is that during last 9 months, FII have sold nearly 33 billion, and market has fallen around 18 to 20%. And after their only $3 billion buy orders, the market has recovered literally 80% of that. So don't you feel that market can go anywhere from here on the upside if some more liquidity comes in?
So it's a fair argument. It's a fair argument. The one that I'm trying to make is to judge exactly that, whether more liquidity will come in or not. And I'm making that judgment based on the US tightening cycle, the global liquidity environment, and the currency environment, which is the dollar, where the rupee is weakening. And we are presuming that money will keep flowing in despite a weaker rupee. And I would think there is a risk to that happening, and which is why we are taking the stance that that may not be the case. Now, we also don't want to be looking at backward data and extrapolating that into the future. Now, just because FI is bought for a few weeks in like more than a year, should we extrapolate that they will keep buying for the rest of the year? I think predicting their flows has been one of the most difficult things. And other thing is that their flows really don't drive the market. That is part of what I said in the money control interview, that FII flows or DII flows, in fact, most of the time just end up netting each other. If they are buying 500, they are selling 500. Somebody is selling 500, the other guy is buying 500. So does their flows really determine the direction of the market? And my answer is no. What determines the market direction is the actually underlying trend of sentiment, behavior, and liquidity itself. So is FII cash market flows a reflection of liquidity? No. But FII futures and options positioning is a reflection of sentiment. And that is how then we actually end up analyzing that factor.
No, one thing I want to add that, see, market has a strong buying interest is observed. That huge selling is being absorbed and minor buying is being literally, market has shooted from that 15,200 level. So there is that the selling is being absorbed easily. But buying,
but
they are not getting opportunity to
you are presuming that FII is the only player in the market. That is not the case.
But the major player is FII, no?
No, that is a wrong presumption. That is
So
already.
Do you think retailers and DII can take this market downwards?
Well, if given the amount of FII selling, FIIs should have crashed the market more than they did. The argument last year was that they couldn't crash it because DIIs and retail investors are buying. Now you're telling me that, they are buying so much, so others cannot sell. So let's get that argument out of the way. Like, let's try and look at the market from a different perspective.
On technical also, I am seeing that this is a typical pole and black flag pattern which has exploded on the upside now.
Okay. But what will keep it from changing? That is what I am asking. How do you extrapolate FII will keep buying? See, I'm saying that you are presuming they will keep buying. And that is why it will go up. Little bit of buying drove it up. So will they keep buying?
My bet is only that now retailers are adding day by day.
So when I take that bet, I am trying to make that bet not on the basis of my feeling that because they are buying, they will keep buying, but that liquidity is measured by looking at which indicators. Should I look at the currency market? Should I look at what should I look at? Should I look at the rate environment? Should I look at the reserve, the global reserve market?
I am typically looking at the sentiments of the market that everyone
So,
is
but then,
bearish now,
but
and
no, no.
still market is going up.
Now I will counter that. Everybody was bearish at 15,200. I also turned bullish. All my posts are in public. At 15,200, we have already predicted that it will cross 17,000. At
But now also
17,000,
everyone is bearish.
no, that is what you think. The data doesn't show that. What data are you using to measure that everybody is bearish? For example, let's just take the FII futures data, which is why I said measure sentiment based on data. FII net positioning in the futures market, which is more relevant than looking at the cash market from a sentiment perspective, was short to the extent of more than 1 lakh contracts. I think 1 lakh 75,000 contracts or so was at the peak of the pandemic. And I think at this bottom, it was around 1 lakh 45,000 contracts in June. In June of 15th, it was 1 lakh 45,000 contracts when we were at 15,200. They were short. At the end of July,
Okay.
at the end of the July, by the time we crossed 17,100, 200, they had covered their entire short position and started to go long. Now, throughout August, their long position is flat at 20,000, 10,000, 12,000 contracts. They are not going long more than that. Okay. So you're only measuring it by cash market. I'm trying to look at a different measure. I'm saying in the futures market, they're not buying anymore. Okay. So in terms of positioning, we are already gone from short to no short. Another way you can look at it, let's forget FII. You can look at the index discount or premium in the futures market. Just look at the Nifty futures premium or discount. Last, all the way you go back to June, it was running at a discount of 40 points. Right now, if you look at September futures relative to current month, it is running at a premium of 90 points on some days intraday. At the end, by the time we look at it till expiry, it may be 40, 50, 60 points, which is pretty high. So you're gone from a huge discount to a premium. That to me is a better sign of sentiment than the 5 people that you speak to and feel that everybody is bearish. How are you
No, no.
judging everybody is bearish? It's usually based
I'm
on 5 people you speak to.
no, definitely not. But what do you think that
No, then
where
what
the
data?
pain
You
can
give me
be?
a data point. I'm giving you data points. You give me a data point saying everybody is bearish. It should show in your data, no? It should show in short positioning. If everybody is short, Nifty futures should go into discount, not premium.
That is what I'm saying. That
Okay.
where the
Or if you
pain
want to
can be,
measure it on mutual
where the
fund flows,
pain
you
can
measure
be.
it on mutual fund flows. SIP flows are positive, not negative. So
Definitely,
who's bearish on the market?
that is what I'm saying. That the SIP flows are continuously coming.
So how are you
DII,
saying that everybody is bearish then? See, I am just countering data with data.
what my argument is that DII are buying because SIP flows are coming. Retailers are opening new and new accounts, and they are also adding their position. FII is not able to keep this market down. So if at all FII has to sell and markets still don't go down, then what will happen if they start buying? So I guess more pain is from the upside and not on the downside. If market goes up, there will be more pain for everyone who have left out.
Rose, can I counter that?
Yeah.
Hey, Tortoise, see, you got to look at things differently, right? Your primary assumption, and let's look at domestic flows. First of all, I completely agree with Rohit on whatever data points he said, that don't look at just cash flows. You have to look at a combination of cash and futures when it comes to foreign institutional investors. That's one very important thing. Secondly, in terms of what you're saying that domestic guys are buying, just for perspective, the same argument could have been made in February and March when the markets collapsed, right? In fact, foreign institutional investors at that point of time sold lesser amount of value in February, March than what they sold in May and June. May and June were the biggest outflows, and yet the markets really didn't correct because it depends upon
the market moves depending upon not necessarily flow, but depends upon the you know uh, the amount of action with which the buyer or the seller wants to sell or buy, right? And in case of May and June, the domestic institutional investors, and especially led by LIC, decided to buy at very aggressive prices, regardless of price cost of stock, right? Which is why the market didn't correct. Now the question you've got to ask yourself is, will that continue? The second question you've got to ask yourself is, if you look at the cost of money in India, I don't know whether you've been talking to any bankers, but Bandhan Bank, for instance, recently came out with a fixed deposit scheme of 7%. When was the last time you saw a fixed deposit of 7%? So as the and if you look at what the RBI is doing, they are not really providing too much liquidity in the market. So as your deposit rates keep going up because RBI is not providing liquidity, there will be that switch asset allocation away from domestic equity to domestic debt. When that happens, you can actually see a fall off on potentially inflows into the market. Because at the end of the day, you can't have both interest rates in India going up as well as the stock market going up. So you got to, take a balanced view over it. And remember, foreign institutional investors are opportunistic. They don't care about whether they're losing an opportunity here or an opportunity there. They are saying, where will I make the most amount of money? If you were, and I'm giving examples, in the month of March, if you had bought China, you would have made more money than buying India. Like the Chinese tech companies collapsed in March, right? But from the bottom, they went to the top. You would have made 45-50% in a very short span of time. So they look at opportunity. Where will I get my opportunity? Tomorrow, the US market goes down 25%. They're going to say, listen, the US is far cheaper. I don't take the risk of currency. I will sell my stuff in emerging markets and buy the US. At that point of time, I don't think India can just stand out and say, okay, our valuation that we are in a bull market and we keep going on. No, it's about liquidity at the end of the day. It's about opportunity at the end of the day. So look at it that way. Don't assume that, and bear in mind, if India is a country, it's short in foreign capital. We require capital to grow. If we don't have foreign capital coming in, we are the losers. So it's very important that foreign capital keeps coming into India.
Okay. Thanks, Rohit sir. It was very nice interaction with you. I really follow your all the charts and learn a lot of things from you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Unfortunately, Rohit is having a problem. I'm not sure. He's not able to speak. He just messaged me. Jay, can you take the questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Next is Niveshak. You can just unmute and you can ask. Unfortunately, Rohit is still struggling to, get his network back. So Jay, who's an analyst at India Charts, he'll be taking up the questions.
Okay, thank you, Chavan, and hello, hi, Jay. Actually, my question is not more on the market movement and all those stuff. I just want to understand one thing. If you are going through the export data, I just want to understand whether this export data, which is being shown by the Indian government, or I have read in various articles that it has improved a lot. I mean, we have become a net export positive and all those stuff. But I can see also various rebuttal from various stakeholders and the guys who knows market and all those the data well. So I just want to understand that if export is really going very good, and related to that, I have another question that if the improvement in export, it really shows that structural story of India is getting more better, and the businesses, all the business surrounding it or related to it will improve. And the last question related to maybe export or not, that do you think that any data, whether it is related to currency or related to price of gas or anything, will surprise, where all the data right now we have with us, it will simply surprise the the way the data is showing. So please, if this question stands valid, as per the topic of this space. Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I think, I mean, what I have read, I think we are running into deficits now, and that too maybe because of crude. So maybe Fact Finder can, highlight this on bit. Uh, but largely of what I have heard and I have read, I think we are actually running into deficits. So yes, I think the in value terms, I think exports have grown. Okay, but to that extent, I think the imports are actually running at a much faster pace, and because of which we are actually in a deficit, if I'm not wrong. So maybe Fact Finder, if you have anything to add to this.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Jay. I think you hit it on the head, hit the nail on the head. Nivesh, the thing is, because of inflation, right? We've all heard of inflation of commodities, right? And because of that, if you look at India's import and export, we, for instance, uh, import crude oil, refined product. Like Reliance exports almost 50-60% of their product that they process. Gold, for instance, we import gold and we export it, right? So I would not look at export uh, in in one bucket and say our exports are growing. There's been huge inflation. WPI, for instance, is up 16-17%, which means for the same product we are at 16 to 17% higher. Don't look at exports per se and say exports are doing well. You have to look at net. In fact, what Jay mentioned is that our current account deficit is actually at the highest level ever for a monthly basis. I think we touched about $31 billion on a monthly basis in the month of either June or July. It's the highest ever. Uh, and that, and if you go into the detail of it, while exports grew, imports grew much faster. Imports grew much faster. And there are two ways of looking at the import data. On one side, you can say that consumption is better because people are importing more electronics, people are importing more capital goods and stuff like that. But it's not true that our imports are doing really well. And if you look at our end markets, right? For example, Europe is one end market. It's not doing too well, right? So you will see an impact out there. And I'll give you a couple of other data points. For example, steel, right? Steel, if you recall, Government of India had put a restriction on steel, and India was a decent exporter in steel, and we were taking advantage of the situation in Europe. But then the government came in and put in restrictions. So that hit exports with a lag, which is why you saw an increase in our current account deficit over the last couple of months. Similarly, wheat, right? Initially, we were exporting wheat. Now we've stopped it, right? So hence our export number, reduced, but our imports continue to grow. So I hope I answer your question. But yeah,
Yes,
just
yes,
keep in mind.
yes. Yeah, I one thing, just because you answered, I forgot to ask if you can help me answer this question. Okay, I have gone through some data and I have seen that, especially engineering goods, how I am coming back to engineering goods is that it's a very big margin export business of the India. And the second part is that also create lot of job. I mean, not as part to IT or other industry, but still it creates a large, it creates a good middle class income generating people. That's what I, read. Please correct me if I am wrong. There is a massive, I think, somewhere I was reading in an article in last decade or so, there was a very good improvement in that. So if that data is also correct or not, because when I see and I go through, and I also go through very, people who know very well, sometimes they refute it, so I got confused. So I also try to understand from few of my colleagues and friends who are in logistics sector, which I track also well, to correlate with this export data. They say yes, they are seeing a lot of traction in that part. Can you help me there? That what do you think about this engineering good, please? Thanks. And
Eddie, if
now
you
I
want to
will
speak, you
stop.
can go and speak.
Sorry, Niveshakji, the question was on consumer segments like middle class, growth, jobs, etc.
You can relate it to, but it was more on a export side of engineering goods. I just want to, what I am just trying to see that if India can really throw a surprise, some data, which is hidden, some structural changes are if actually happening or not. I just want to understand that. And something is known by, because the market movement, though I'm not much interested, it seems that something is trying to stop it from falling, or maybe something we all don't know after seeing the whatever data right now with us. My question is on that side, so I'm trying to correlate with various sector. If it is really true or something we all are not aware, something can throw a surprise. So I was trying to correlate with export. Maybe if doesn't, it is a wrong way I'm going, I will try to find something else, or else market should fall below 10,000 or 12,000. That's where I was thinking. Please carry on, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so short answer, no, there is no hidden surprise. A really short answer. Let me explain. The economically, we have lost. So I'm a consumer marketer by profession and expertise. I'm an amateur trader actually. So don't take my trading advice, but I can stake my reputation on my opinion on the consumer pyramids and jobs and so on. And यहाँ पे वो भाव भगवान से concept doesn't apply. Stock prices can do what they like. Over the last 7, maybe 10 years, taking a longer time frame, we've seen a steady loss of middle class jobs, especially in the 35,000 per month plus wala segment. What we have seen very visibly over post pandemic, because it's now very apparent, is the lower middle class. There's like some segment who moved down into the poor. From the middle class, people have moved down into the lower middle. From the upper middle, some have moved into the middle class, and some from the upper middle class are moving into the rich. So you're seeing now essentially two Indian consumption sort of trends. It like almost like say metals was on a violent rally, and many other sectors, were like getting hammered when last year QE was happening, right? Similarly, top 5 crore India mega party. I mean, there's like serious cash flow improvement. There is serious wealth effect. They are highly invested in financial assets. They have real estate. They have global portfolio. They have dollar income, etc., etc. उनका बहुत party चल रहा है. The remaining pyramid is under severe stress. Fact Finder mentioned it earlier. I'll just recap that in the previous recording. That AC Nielsen shows FMCG volumes have been negative. It's a first in my career. It's a big deal. That all India, all category put together, volumes are negative. North, East, West, South, urban, rural, individual categories, personal care, healthcare, foods. In summer we had some beverage pickup as Factor mentioned, but that's like a one-off. In other categories also we're seeing volume decline. So two-wheelers declined in July. Mobile handsets, which was like an amazing growth story, is down in Q2, April, May, June, by about 5% versus previous quarter. And they exited the quarter with 10 weeks of inventory. Friends tell me now that 10 weeks is about 14 weeks of inventory. So essentially, we've lost a job model, which will create this consumption cycle, and people need more homes and cars and bikes and toilet paper and shoes. That consumption cycle has got hammered. Stock picking, of course, please. There are many better experts, so there are niches which will probably benefit. Like Bata is doing well because people are down trading. So you'll find opportunities in this, but at a broad level, things are not pleasant. Of course, markets are markets. Bankrupt companies get $5 billion valuations. So market में तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. I'm not an expert on those things.
No, बिल्कुल उस एंगल से नहीं बात कर रहा था. एंड थैंक्स श्रीनी. If there is some source from where I can extract this kind of data, or कुछ है ऐसा नहीं?
Yeah, definitely. I'll DM you some of these articles and all. I don't post heavily, Niveji, about this because it's it comes across as very negative. But this is the truth. So in corporate circles, it's being spoken about very openly. Nitin Paranjpe, the Levers chairman, he said, "I've not seen consumption stress of this level." And he's been working since '87, and he's like a really big guy, and really look up to him. तो मतलब 50 साल में उन्होंने क्या नहीं देखा है? वो तो प्री लिबरलाइजेशन दिनों
But
से घिस रहे हैं.
बट पता है कंफ्यूजन कहाँ होता है एग्जैक्टली मैंने उनका भी सुना एंड व्हेन आई हर्ड फ्रॉम द मैनेजमेंट ऑफ टाटा कंज्यूमर और आईटीसी वो बहुत ज्यादा पॉजिटिव साउंड करते हैं कि
Once let me. Sorry to interrupt you. What the positive guys are doing, and I support all the management because it's their job to. I've been a marketer. It's your job to market your company to shareholders as well. So what ITC, for example, has done, if you listen between the lines, they say this segment is doing well. We are opening new hotels and we are confident of our demand. And so, they are careful about unka kahan pe acha chal raha hai. But if you go through what they're saying, they are not contradicting what the levers guy said. Sunil Duggal, famous CEO of Dabur, took it from 700 crores to almost 10,000 crores turnover over 20 years. He said, this is a structural demand issue, which is a code for something is broken. When they say temporary or interim demand issues, they're referring to interest rates, zyada hai, liquidity kam hai, ye wo, kaccha pani, those kind of things.
Correct.
So a lot of the positive commentary is actually honest from the blue chip guys. They're not, but it's their job to showcase their company. तो वो तो अपना काम कर रहे हैं.
आई अंडरस्टैंड मैं वो भी आई नॉर्मली मैं सारे कमेंट्स तो बहुत सीरियस नहीं लेता हूँ लेकिन जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कंज्यूमर के डिसूजा साहब ने कहा कि वी हैव अ वेरी रैपिड ग्रोथ स्टोरी इन टर्म्स ऑफ दैट टाटा स्टारबक्स और जो टाटा स्टारबक्स के कंज्यूमर हैं दे आर वेरी आई थिंक मे बी अपर मिडिल क्लास या मिडिल क्लास एटलीस्ट है एंड ही इज वेरी पॉजिटिव
super class.
बट मे बी या सॉरी
No, I said people who go to Starbucks are very, very rich.
हाँ, उनका पार्टी चल रहा है. He's right. I know Sunil. He's an ex-Pepsi guy. Then he ran Whirlpool very well. Very highly reputed. Everyone looks up to him. He's saying the truth. Top 5 crore Indians का पार्टी चल रहा है. तो उनका Starbucks में पार्टी चल रहा है as a company operator. But ask him Whirlpool का सेल का क्या हो रहा है sir? He won't answer.
Correct. Thank you.
Anyways, back to the markets. Rohit,
Can you hear me now, Chavan?
yes, perfect, Rohit. You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a
Thank
few things on the market, Chavan, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
please.
So basically, these are Rohit ji Bura mat manna. So Rohit forgets a lot of basics, which he talks about in his longer updates and all. A lot of traders are like new guys. They were dealing with psychology and so on. So there are basic things which he's mentioned and they're in public, which is if I'm a perma bear, but if there's a rally, I thought it's a bear market rally. Now till from 15.5 to 16.5, it was easy. I had higher conviction than the bulls. So bear market rallies are supposed to be more vicious and stronger than bull market rallies. After that, I was like conflicted. So Rohit's point was, so up position chota kar dena and play shorter. So like do long exit, then again do long exit, again do long exit. So if you're a perma bull and if it's going down, then maybe you take the other side of this logic. The second is we shouldn't make a epic debate out of something. So I, for example, have decided 17,800 to 18,200 मैं trade नहीं करूंगा. तो मेरे लिए सब शांति हो गया and now I'm short because I think it's a bear market. So there are these things we can do with our own mindset, which and Rohit has a lot more of these, but he's not been mentioning this. I thought I'd bring it up. They're all Rohit's points. Thank you.
No, definitely. And we go into a great detail on how to manage a trade. In fact, that was, I think, right at the beginning of today's spaces. I've spoken on that topic because of what people come and question on Twitter in terms of what is your view and should it change here, and asking me to do a spaces with someone else who has an opposite view, for example. And I said, how does it matter how will it help you? I mean, if you are an investor, you want to listen to a debate between somebody who's bullish at 18,000 thinking it's going to 20, or bearish at 18,000 thinking it's going to 14. I said, how does it help you as an investor to listen to that debate? What are you going to do at the end of that? And the answer is, he will not know what to do, because neither the two who are having that fight are going to come to a conclusion. None are going to agree to each other. It is very rare that one will bow and say, yes, you were right and I was wrong. And even and at the end of then, what are you going to really take away in terms of your strategy and decisions that you're going to take? So finally, whatever view you have, bullish or bearish, at this point of time, it comes down to execution. How are you going to execute that view? Okay, so if I'm bearish, how am I going to execute? If I'm bullish, what am I going to do? Am I going to buy when the indicators are saying sell? If I'm bullish, that means I should buy the next dip and when it's oversold. And if I'm bearish, I'll sell at the high when I get a signal that the trend is reversing. Both are completely different approaches to how we really trade and invest in the market. And so if people don't appreciate that execution is something to be learnt apart from having a view, and then the two have to be put together into an entire system of process of what you do on a day-to-day basis, then you never get the end results that you're really looking for. And so no debate has any meaning unless people figure out what to do in terms of execution. So when we are giving a view, they're not really looking at what we are trying to say, but they want something else. Or maybe they have their own biases, and so they're really hoping that they can clear their head on that. But you'll never be able to clear it by listening to two different opinions, because that won't change your bias. And so the real learning is, how do you really change your bias by actually having a factor model, and being able to checkpoint on, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, which is very similar to the earlier discussion we were having on FII flows. That this is all bullish. If they keep buying, then what the heck? And what if they keep? And what if they don't? The question is, what are you going to do about it? What is your strategy? How are you going to execute either of those views? Is really the final cake, in terms of taking it away.
Okay. Next up is Bruce. You can unmute. You can.
Hi. So the one thing the fact finder told, foreign investment quitting your country is very important. When big investment goes, especially from manufacturing sector, it means a lot. So I'll add two small stories because I have long 2 decades experience of manufacturing sector. Holcim quitting the cement sector was a news, right? So Holcim is selling its Indian cement business to Adani, and the deal is going on. Now, what happened? So if you observe our manufacturing, especially the way the government controls, as a state, we are terrible at implementing contracts and committing the private investment. So there's just so much policy paralysis, so much dwindling happening. I don't know, especially the sectors like, say, coal, cement, because they are highly regulated. So regulation and how the state acts is very important. And I have observed Holcim working in the cement sector for almost, say, 10 years. So cement is the one where, raw material is very important. If your raw material resources, your limestone, then you have a future. Otherwise, because they are essentially, cement is made by limestone. If you have limestone reserve, limestone mines, which are natural resource with you, then you have a future. And exploration of limestone resources require innovation, require private investment in innovation and research, exploration, which is not happening in India. Traditionally, how the Indian cement companies are operating, they have old reserves. So they all, most of the big players like ACC, Ambuja, they have mines which are around 20, 30-year-old limestone mines, which reserve is fastly depleting. Now, a global player like Holcim, they would want new exploration, new limestone reserve to come. That is not happening. The way mining policy is operating in last, say, 10 years, auctions are not going good. Auctions are basically happening, but that whole idea has collapsed. The player who acquire mines through auction, they end up paying so much high premium that's not going to work out. So most of the cement players are having the limestone reserve, which are not going to last, say, 15 or 20 years. So a global player like Holcim had to actually want to think of selling their Indian business and quit. And I have seen this literally happening. It's not a good sign for a manufacturing sector, right? Coal, if you look at another example, coal. Now, we all know that we are fifth largest country in terms of coal reserve, right? And the situation is so pathetic that we are not able to meet the peak demand. So what happens in April, May, June? There is a peak demand. At the time of peak demand, there is a huge chaos. We don't have enough coal to supply our thermal plants, so we have to eventually then think of importing. Then there is a circular that you have to import 10%, and then how to absorb that cost, and then there is a constraint of logistic, how to make those rakes to reach the power plant. So this chaos happens every year, and because the demand is going up, and the country which is having such huge coal reserve is not able to mine its own coal. Why? Because there is a lots of policy paralysis. We have seen how our judiciary cancelled the coal blocks, how a narrative was created in media about fake coal scam which was not there. 2 3 days back I was reading a news article that a coal block was cancelled in 2008, and now in 2022 the Supreme Court had decided finally that there was no scam, and the government has to pay 1 lakh to that private owner. Now imagine the situation of a private company like DLA Industries struggling from 2008 2022, losing their own business, losing their coal mine, losing their everything, and getting 1 lakh, as a fine and nothing else. Everything is destroyed for them, right? In such situation, no private investment would like to invest in your country, in your natural resources. So the idea of coal block auction has been miserably failed, and nobody is addressing that elephant in the room. That how to, because the different kind of logics are being given. Okay, we are allocating, we are doing this and that, but that thing is not being addressed. So unless, I mean, shortly I would like to say, unless we address these policy issues in the manufacturing sector, because no, we are very good in service is growing well, and we've been traditionally doing good, but in terms of manufacturing, our country is not going good unless we address those basic issues in regulation, basic issues in policy paralysis. Manufacturing is not going to go ahead. And if manufacturing not going, then I don't think it's good for economy and for overall for everyone. So that's my limited take based on my experience, my regulatory experience of 2 decades in manufacturing sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. No, we'll just wind it up in 5 minutes. So, okay. Next up is Mr. Ashwin. You can just unmute, ask your question to Rohit, please.
Hi Rohit sir. Sir, I just want you to share your views on sugar sector for next 3 years. Yes, sir.
Rohit, are you there? Can you unmute?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
You can
Rohit,
hear me?
Yes.
So, see, as far as the sugar sector is concerned, I think it tends to move very much with the commodity cycle. And as I said earlier, I think there is room for the commodity cycle still to correct further in the next 6 to 12 months. But after that, I think you should see the upward trend for the sector resume. And 3 years down the line, of course, it'll be in a better place. What you'll have to manage is what happens in between.
Okay. Sunil? Sunil, if you can unmute and you can ask your question. If you are...
Anyone else looking at asking something or having a discussion can simply put in a speaker request so we come to know. Because I don't see any requests right now. Else we can actually start winding up. We've already done 2 hours, I think, into this.
Yeah. Okay. We can wind up, Rohit. Yeah. So, any ending statements, Rohit, with the markets?
think I've made in detail, but cutting it short, we think that the market has peaked at the recent high of 17,960 or 70, whatever it made. Let's say 18,000 to put it right. It's sort of a triple top or along a falling trend line of all the highs that we've made since October of last year. We haven't seen a breakout beyond that. Even if we did, it could end up being a false breakout because underlying what we are really seeing is a weakness in breadth, volume participation. While volumes were a little high in this last leg, when we compare it to the volumes that we saw during the bull run of 2020, 21, then the volumes are far, far lower than where they were back then. So in that sense, you don't really see the kind of breadth and volumes that you'd want to get in terms of a meaningful breakout. So unless we see a change in liquidity factors, I think that's the main driver right now, not just the fundamentals of maybe particular companies. And so irrespective, what happens in that scenario is valuations get derated. And the other thing which derates valuations is interest rates themselves. So when interest rates move up, the possibility of you getting the same stock at a lower valuation increases. When interest rates are falling, the reverse happens. So when we are in a low rate environment, we are not seeing the P ratio on average for the index really fall below 15 to 18. But as the rates are elevated, the risk becomes that will we go back to the baseline level, which in previous bear markets had been closer to 10x in terms of the index P ratio. Will we really go back there again or not? Needs to be seen. But having said that, all the factors are right now pointing downwards, and that is why I'll be prepared for the worst case scenario, meaning that I think the worst is still ahead of us in terms of this bear market and not behind us.
Okay,
Hello?
the last from Spark.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Rohit, my question is for you. Earlier, you briefly spoke about the importance of premium or discount in Nifty futures. If you can kindly speak a bit more on that, because what I saw was during the entire rally in late June and early July, even during expiry, the premium would quickly go to discount, and that would provide some comfort to the market because then I assume that everybody was short. And in fact, for the last entire month or so, the premium has not been that much. But yes, like you rightly said, this is the first time I think in 1.5 months is when I'm seeing a significant premium in Bank Nifty. I think it was 200 or 250 points for September, and in Nifty. But I've struggled to understand the exact meaning of this because this number changes very quickly. If you can please just talk about it.
Yeah, so the intraday or day-to-day changes in the number. So there are two things. So the way I measure it is I just try to look at the closing number, okay, and then I take an average of that. So that sort of plots it as an indicator. If I look at the intraday swings, then it can give me a mixed feeling. The intraday swings are driven more by arbitrageurs doing reverse arbitrage and then re-arbitrage and so on. But on average, when we look at the premium level, what it tells us is whether there are more longs in the system or more shorts, because that's what the buying and selling results in. So, for example, right now, if we are in the current month, and people are rolling over more longs than shorts into the next series, which is why you're seeing September premiums shoot up, which means a lot of people would be buying September and selling the current month. Fewer people would be doing the reverse, which is why you end up seeing that premium. And similarly, when the markets are down a lot, you end up seeing a discount because similar buyers are not present, or more people are rolling forward shorts than longs, and that causes the index premiums to go down significantly. So it sort of helps as an indicator, and when the indicator is very down, we think it's more bullish, and when it's way high, then we think it's more bearish. That's simply it.
Okay, so basically, let's say the markets go down to 16,800, 17,000 tomorrow, and the premiums disappear and go back to a slight discount. Would that mean that maybe it's a temporary bottom and it's not a good time to short? Because I've never seen markets fall consistently with huge discounts. But the issue is I don't remember what happened in 2015 because I think then the same thing happened for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But this indicator you're saying is just this. This is not something that can be used to identify market bottoms or tops, or even short-term bottoms or tops.
No, it does work in the medium term, not very short term, but medium term, like a couple of weeks or months, not weeks also, several months. So over periods of months, you'll see it go from discount to premium, and at that point of time, we do try to identify. But I never will use a single factor model. This is one of them. I'll use it along with maybe a dozen sentiment indicators to see that they're all indicating the same thing, because sometimes you get reverse divergences also. You can get a market top on a bottom also on a premium, especially when the markets are sliding slowly. So if we go back to say the bottom of 2009, the last part of the bear market, the premium inverted from a discount to a premium, so sort of people stopped shorting there, and so you get a reverse divergence. So we have to look at it, but main point is we use this to see whether it is at an extreme high or low, and then whether that coincides with our technical readings in the market, and just helps us gauge that state of the market.
Great. Thank you so much, Rohit.
Okay. Can we just take up a couple of more questions, Rohit, or should we wind up?
Yeah. If there is, we can, because
Okay,
I got cut in between, so we'll do that.
Yeah, Sandeep, you can just unmute and you can, if you're there. Sandeep.
Hello. Should I ask?
Yeah.
So, what's your view on gold and silver going forward? If the bear market,
So there is downside risk to gold and silver. I think in terms of retracement, the risk I'm viewing is that if the dollar does continue to move higher the way we are thinking, maybe for several months, then say if we take a 61%, so my worst case scenario for gold would be 61% of the entire rally it has seen since 2015, and that could be closer to $1,500. So that is my worst case scenario. We'll see whether it actually gets there. That requires us to map it on a day-to-day basis, but basically looking at more downside than upside in the short term.
okay.
Okay, we have Piyush. Piyush, you can just.
टाइटल रखा है आरबी इन बियर मार्केट। तो मेरा एक सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है कि आप बियर मार्केट मान के चल रहे हैं अभी या बुल मार्केट?
नहीं, मैं तो बेयर मार्केट ही मान के चल रहा हूँ।
कोई कैलकुलेशन किस हिसाब से?
You will make me repeat my entire half an hour opening statement of this spaces if I try to answer that question.
सर कंगारू मार्केट है ना, बियर है ना बुल है? जून
क्या मार्केट है?
कंगारू मार्केट है। बियर मार्केट तो तब होगा ना सर 20% से ज्यादा करेक्शन होगा। जो जुलाई 21 टू अक्टूबर 21 19% अप, तो अक्टूबर टू दिसंबर 12% माइनस, दिसंबर टू जनवरी 12%।
मैं सख्त जवाब देता हूँ इस चीज का।
हाँ।
अगर मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में ये काबिलियत नहीं बनाई, जिससे मैं आपको होने के पहले बता पाऊं कि 20% या 30% गिरने का रिस्क है, तो मैंने क्या किया जिंदगी में, है ना? तो आप मुझे 20% 30% गिरने के बाद मैं आपको बोलूंगा कि हाँ भाई साहब ये बेयर मार्केट है, तब तक आपका पोर्टफोलियो 50% उड़ गया, तो क्या फायदा? कोई फायदा है?
कब तक एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, वो ठीक है, वो कोई एक दिन में तो होता नहीं है। बट कहने का मतलब है कि इफ देयर इज सच अ रिस्क, नहीं, मेरे कहने का मतलब समझिए कि अगर ऐसा कोई भी रिस्क है जो कि हमें दिख रहा है कि ऐसा रिस्क है, तो हम उसको बेयर मार्केट मानेंगे।
और
फिर वो होता है कितने टाइम में होता है, वो हमारा डे टू डे काम है ना, हर दिन देखना, सोचना और करना।
जैसे लास्ट 1 ईयर से कंगारू मार्केट है, तो ये ट्रेडिंग और ये जो गेन मार्केट में जो शेयर्स डबल हो रहे हैं, ट्रिपल हो रहे हैं, वो अपॉर्चुनिटी तो चली जाएगी ना 1 ईयर के लिए।
ग्रे मार्केट अब मैं ग्रे मार्केट तो छूता भी नहीं हूं, तो मैं उसकी तो बात ही ना करूं तो अच्छा है।
नहीं नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ सर,
व्हाइट मार्केट की बात करिए ना, जो
नहीं नहीं,
अवेलेबल है
व्हाइट
सामने, जो
मार्केट की
दिख रहा
बात
है
कर रहा
सबको।
हूँ सर, जो अभी मार्केट में पिछले एक साल से लास्ट
हाँ,
जुलाई से लेके
हम्म,
30 अगस्त तक मार्केट अभी तक फ्लैट है, ऑलमोस्ट फ्लैट है।
हम्म, हम्म,
मतलब 18,000 तब था टेंटेटिव लेवल, और अभी भी लगभग वही है, 100-200 प्लस माइनस है।
हम्म,
ठीक है, तो
हम्म,
ना तो बियर मार्केट है ना
हम्म,
बुल मार्केट है। और अगर आप बियर मार्केट एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं तो एक आइडिया तो होगा ना कि 6 महीना, 2 महीना, 8 महीना।
करेक्ट। मैंने ऑलरेडी बताया कि 15 to 21 मंथ्स का बेयर मार्केट होता है। सो इफ वी टॉप्ड इन अक्टूबर ऑफ 2021, 15 मंथ्स गोज अप टू मार्च ऑफ 2023।
मतलब है कि ये बियर मार्केट चल रहा है।
हाँ जी, ये चल रहा है। आप उसको कंगारू बोल लो, कोई उसमें दिक्कत नहीं है, क्योंकि बेयर मार्केट में भी ना, मार्केट क्या है, 1000 पॉइंट गिरता है, 1000 पॉइंट बढ़ता है। अब आप इस समय पे ऐसा हो रहा है कि वो जब 1000 पॉइंट बढ़ रहा है तो इट इज रिट्रेसिंग 80-90%, तो आपको लग रहा है कि गया कहीं नहीं है। तो दैट इज वाई यू आर कॉलिंग इट अ कंगारू मार्केट, विच इज फाइन, विच इज कंप्लीटली ओके विथ मी। अगर वो डाउनवर्ड चैनल होता तो हम उसको बेयर मार्केट बोलते। बट पॉइंट ये है, मैं बुल मार्केट कब बोलूंगा, जब जब मैं सिर्फ तेजी करूं, हर डिप पे मैं सिर्फ तेजी करूं, मंदी मंदी करने का सोचूं ही नहीं। जब ये ऐसा बाजार हो गया, जब मैं तेजी
सर
भी करना है और
सर
फिर 2 महीने
ट्रेंडिंग
बाद
मार्केट,
मंदी भी करना है, मुझे
सर
बोलने तो
ट्रेंडिंग
दीजिए,
मार्केट।
रुकिए
हाँ
फिर आप बोलना, मुझे बोलने दीजिए फिर आप
हाँ, बोलिए
बोलिएगा।
बोलिए बोलिए।
जब हम ऐसे मार्केट में जहाँ भी 2000 पॉइंट ऊपर जाता है वो भी मैं पकड़ूं और उसमें भी मजे करूं, और 2000 पॉइंट गिरता है उसमें भी मजे करूं, और इसको पकड़ने की क्षमता रखूं, तो इसको मैं बेयर मार्केट कहूंगा। दिस इज माई डेफिनेशन ऑफ बेयर मार्केट। और इसमें आखिर में ऐसा होता है कि एक पैनिक पॉइंट आता है जिसमें कभी कभी ज्यादा ही गिरावट आ जाती है, जो कि एक रिस्क है इस लेवल पे। तो मेरे कहने का मतलब है कि वी आर नॉट आउट ऑफ दिस कैंगरू मार्केट, एंड देयरफॉर द रिस्क इज यू आर स्टिल इन अ बेयर मार्केट।
तो सर जैसे 16,200 से तो ट्रेंडिंग मार्केट है, अगर मैं आप ही की बात पे बात
16,200
करूं
से
तो।
15,200 से ट्रेंडिंग मार्केट है।
15,200 तो चलिए ठीक है, नहीं मानेंगे, क्योंकि प्राइजेक्शन 16,200 पे ही ट्रेंड चेंज हुआ है, चैनल का ब्रेकआउट हुआ है 16,200 पे।
नहीं, वो तो आपका चेंज हुआ ना, मेरा तो नहीं चेंज हुआ, मेरा तो 15,200 पे ही चेंज हो गया।
अच्छा, नहीं वो मेरा तो
और मेरा लिखित है, और मैं ऐसे ही तो बोल नहीं रहा हूँ, क्योंकि मेरा लिखित है।
हम्म, नहीं वो तो मेरा भी।
एवरीथिंग इज रिटन एंड एवरीथिंग इज
सर
टाइम स्टैम्प। सो माई पॉइंट इज दिस की, माई पॉइंट इज व्हाट, 18,000 पे मंदी लगती है, 15,000 पे तेजी लगती है, 18,000 वापस आए, यहाँ पे फिर मंदी लगती है। दिस इज अ कैंगरू मार्केट, विल कंटिन्यू लाइक दिस।
और अगर न्यू हाई आ जाए तो सर?
आने तो दो।
नहीं, मेरा मतलब है कि वो
तो
बियर मार्केट
अगर
हो गया या
अगर
बुल
मगर
मार्केट
का
हो गया?
अगर मगर वाला डिस्कशन ही नहीं है ना इधर। आई एम गिविंग माई ओपिनियन, यू आर गिविंग मी अगर मगर।
अगर
अगर मगर
मगर
का
नहीं है
क्या
ना,
डिस्कशन है?
19,000 आ रहा है, अगर मगर है ही नहीं।
तो आने तो दो।
चलिए ठीक है।
आने तो दो। आज आज कहाँ है उस पे आप व्यू मांग, मैं दे रहा हूँ
आज
कि
आज
आज इधर है, आज मुझे ये
आज
लगता है। कल
आज
क्या
की
होगा तो आपको क्या लगेगा? अरे वो कौन सा सवाल है वो?
सर कंगारू मार्केट है पिछले एक साल से, बियर मार्केट नहीं है, मैं यही आपको क्लियर करना चाह रहा हूँ।
आपने क्लियर कर दिया और मैंने भी क्लियर कर दिया। मैंने उसके रीजंस भी दे दिए आधा घंटा बोल के। अभी वो आपने सुने नहीं है तो मैं रिपीट नहीं करूंगा, रिकॉर्डिंग इज
नहीं,
ऑन ट्विटर।
सुन लेंगे वो तो, कोई बात नहीं, वो तो मेरा भी वीडियो रखा हुआ है यूट्यूब पे, उसमें कोई इशू नहीं है। बट
हाँ तो
ट्रेंडिंग
ठीक है।
मार्केट तो 5 साल में एक बार मिलता है, रोज थोड़ा ना मिलता है।
नहीं है, मिल रहा है ना यहाँ 2,000 पॉइंट का ट्रेंडिंग मार्केट मिला, अभी 2,000 पॉइंट का ट्रेंडिंग मार्केट नीचे की तरफ मिल जाएगा।
तो फिर बियर मार्केट नहीं हुआ ना सर, वही तो पॉइंट है।
यू डोंट नो वेदर 2,000 विल बिकम 5,000, यू डोंट नो दैट।
ओके चलिए ठीक है, फिर आपको पता है।
मुझे इतना पता है कि हो सकता है, होगा कि नहीं मुझे नहीं मालूम, बट रिस्क
नहीं
है।
होगा, मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ 19,000 होगा, अगर मगर कुछ है ही नहीं।
तो यही तो ब्यूटी है, इसी का तो आज मैंने स्पेस रखा है कि इसी डिस्कशन का। तो नाउ ओके, लेट अस पुट इट द अदर वे। यहाँ से तेजी लग रही है, ओके। मैंने कई रीजंस दे दिए कि ऐसा क्यों नहीं होगा, बेस्ड ऑन लिक्विडिटी फैक्टर्स, डॉलर से लेके ग्लोबल लिक्विडिटी, वो सब फैक्टर्स को लेके मुझे लगता है ऐसा शायद नहीं होगा। और अगर यहाँ कहीं पे मार्केट कंसोलिडेट करके ऊपर की तरफ निकल जाता है, आई विल बी फोर्स टू चेंज माई व्यू, इट इज नेचुरल। बट नाउ आई विल आस्क यू द काउंटर क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज आई हैव गिवन माई रीजंस। आई
ये
वॉन्ट टू नो, अगर यहाँ से
हाँ
तेजी लगता है तो उसके रीजंस क्या हैं?
हाँ, बताए ना, पूछे पूछे।
बताइए, मैं आपसे पूछ ही रहा हूँ।
डॉलर इंडेक्स अगर आप बात कर रहे हैं तो डॉलर इंडेक्स का कोई इशू नहीं है, टॉप बन गया है और
Okay.
डबल टॉप बन गया, आज देख लीजिएगा, कोई इशू नहीं है। 2 दिन बाद आपको प्राइस भी पता चल जाएगा। और जहां तक लिक्विडिटी की बात है, 1.5 करोड़ लॉट्स की रोज की ट्रेडिंग होती है इंडेक्स में ऑन ऑल एवरेज, जब विक्स होते हैं 22, 23, और जब विक्स 17, 18 होते हैं तो 1 करोड़ के आसपास रोज की ट्रेडिंग होती है। तो इंडेक्स के अंदर और फ्यूचर्स के अंदर कहीं भी लिक्विडिटी की इशू नहीं है। वर्ल्ड की लिक्विडिटी से मुझे कोई मतलब नहीं है, मेरे इंडिया की मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी की कोई इशू नहीं है। और जहां तक टेक्निकल की बात है, यहाँ पे चैनल का ब्रेकआउट हो चुका है और चैनल के हिसाब से टारगेट बनता है 19 के।
Okay.
ओके
कोई
पीयूष,
क्वेश्चन है तो पूछ सकते हैं आप।
पॉइंट्स आपको लगता है तेजी है, हाँ ठीक है, तेजी कीजिए।
नहीं, Chavan, that's not the answer. With all due respect, everybody has their analysis. I never disregard anybody's analysis, but I only go into the reason.
नहीं, मैं
to
अपने
me right
रीजंस
now,
दे रहा हूँ सर, मैं अपने रीजंस
नहीं,
दे
मैं
रहा
भी
हूँ।
बता रहा हूँ, मैं
हाँ,
बताता हूँ। निफ्टी में मैं एग्री करता हूँ, निफ्टी ब्रेकआउट दे सकता है, बट अभी तक मेरे हिसाब से, क्योंकि मैंने जो ट्रेंड लाइन बनाया है पिछले अक्टूबर के हाई से, वो ट्रेंड लाइन के ऊपर रह नहीं पाया है।
एक्चुअली सर, जिस ट्रेंड लाइन को आप देख रहे हैं ना सर, वो आप पुराना वीकली ट्रेंड लाइन देख रहे हैं। वो ट्रेंड चेंज हुए काफी टाइम हो गया है। मैं, आप बोलेंगे तो मैं चार्ट भी आपको ट्वीट कर दूंगा, शेयर कर दूंगा।
श्योरली।
थैंक यू।
Okay, the fact finder, you had some question. You can please unmute.
No, I just had a question for Rohit. Rohit, recently, Apple started, correcting, and Apple actually touched the highest percentage of the US S&P, I think at about 7.4. Now, what do you think? I mean, what is your sense on Apple as a stock? Because at the end of the day, that's the largest weight in the index. Plus, it seems to have started going to correction mode. Your thoughts on
Apple. I only have a view on the Nasdaq index, and but I need to do that. So purely on the Nasdaq index, my measure is that you're starting wave C down. That is what I'm working with right now. So I've not really gone down to what that means for individual US stocks.
So the reason I'm asking this is because typically, if it's the largest weight in your index, then that started rolling over. Is that a sign that quality is getting sold?
Yeah, I get your point, but like I said, I haven't done the homework to answer it, because I am much more focused on the Indian market. I do cover it, but once the US market rolls over, maybe I'll study those stocks and I do write about them sometimes. But 80% or 90% of our time is dedicated to the Indian markets. US indices more we cover, but US stocks, इधर ही इतना मजा है काम करने में, उधर क्या क्यों अपना दिमाग खराब कर रहे हैं? मैं तो ऐसा सोचता हूँ।
Okay, fine.
Why should I even invest in this happening in India? Why should I wake up at 9 in the night and know what US and silver are doing when the opportunities in India to trade and invest are so much? So this is just my approach. I avoid anything that will keep me up after 5. Once markets are closed, we should enjoy home and life. Indian markets offer, fortunately, our long-term macros and fundamentals are good. Problems are short markets. Why we? Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. The last question, Rohit. Okay. Not sure. Vinay, you can just unmute and ask, please. Vinay?
Yeah. Hello. There was some audio issue. That's why I was not getting it. Yeah.
No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
you're
can hear
Yeah.
audible.
you.
I've
Please.
been
Yeah.
following Rohit for quite a long time actually, and I've been a fan of him actually. And recently, conviction has all more built up when he's starting disclosing his holding position also. So I just want to first of all thank you for thanks Rohit for such a beautiful insight and clarification with what he's doing. He's just giving all the things what he's doing because till now I haven't seen anyone who just comments अच्छा लग रहा है बुरा लग रहा है तेजी मंदी but no one tells who how is their positioning it there, how much long, how much not. So this part is quite. I'll just wait for the weekend to just listen what is the positioning of Rohit. So I should plan accordingly. So thank for that. And my question is regarding PSU banks. If Rohit, you can tell me something about the PSU banks, how you are looking on the longer term for 3 to 5 years, how you are looking them PSU banks especially.
Okay, I got thrown out of these spaces, so I missed part of the question. I think you asked about PSU banks. Was there anything else before that?
No, or PSU banks actually.
So if I take a long term outlook, I would actually be bullish on PSU banks. Okay, apart from whatever near term risks come with the market, I think the worst has already been priced in. Okay, the market is not really interested in that sector anymore. But at any point of time when the economy is going to roll back into growth mode, I cannot imagine why their books will not again expand and not do well. You can probably pick the best out of it, but I think that is the worst is done there. That is my short take.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Rohit, with this, let's wind up for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this Twitter space. We'll catch up next time. Thank you. Thank you, Rohit.
Yeah, thank you.